Welcome to Investors Hangout. Today's topic is an interesting one, and everyone wants to take hold of this, and that is to do with financial planning. To discuss this topic, we have with us the CEO of Value Research, Dhirendra Kumar. Dhirendra, we welcome you.
Thank you.
This episode is brought to you by Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund and Value Research. My first question to you, Dhirendra, is how does one start building a financial plan?
Yeah, it's back to basics again. And thinking of financial stuff, most individuals, they think that it is something complex. You have to seek somebody's expertise, but I would just like to demystify it. It is very basic, and you are the best expert. You are the most knowledgeable person to execute a financial plan for yourself, and no expert can actually do it for you, because the nuances, your needs, your expectations, your aspirations, your level of savings, your estimation of how your career will progress, and so will your income and your ability to save or invest, or understanding your own behavior, that what you earn, whether you are in a hurry to spend all that, are you behaviorally predisposed to spending future income today, or you are always focused on making sure that you are able to save some part of your income. So these are also the needs, because some of the needs may be negotiable, some of the needs may not be negotiable. You may not be in a position to save even despite high earnings if your circumstances don't permit. So this is the most complex part. This is something which is the most critical input to a financial plan, and only that individual or his family knows about it. No expert can help in that. So doing a careful, thinking aloud about these things. But and if I have to, the core of any investment plan is that save. If you don't save, investing will not happen. So that's one.
So what I hear you say is save to ultimate objective, and that objective only you know.
No, saving is one thing. Saving does not mean investment. If you don't save, investing, you can't invest.
Right.
Then creating a hierarchy of your investments. What is investment and what is buying protection for your family? So I think critical thing for anybody is to be able to buy, to have the emergency fund. Something happens and you are not able to go to work tomorrow morning. How much money you need to have at home, or some emergency, and that can vary. Vary from some money in the locker to some money in the bank account to some money in the liquid fund, depending on your own configuration. Then comes health insurance, because if you don't have a health insurance, any investment plan or savings plan will get derailed. You'll have to borrow money to invest for any such medical emergency. Then comes buying a term plan only if you have financial dependence. Many a times, you go to a bank and somebody hawks you a insurance linked investment plan. You may not need it. Somebody, an individual, if he has no financial dependence, so the family will be, if you are not around, then there will be problem of different kind, but not the financial problem. The moment you have dependence, you need a large cover. And then the configuration of life is such that you get married, and if you are going to have a dependent spouse, then you need a large insurance. Then the moment you have kids, you need an even larger. Then you take a home loan, and you need to add that, because if you die, and then the home you will not be able to save your house in the absence of income. So your need for term cover or life insurance goes up dramatically in the initial phase of your life. And then as your investments and the repayment of the loans and other things takes place, it comes down. So keep revising that to begin with, and it costs very little to buy that term plan, to buy that exactly the amount of money which is needed. Look at it as an expense. Look at it as an expense to buy protection for your family. And at young age, they are much cheaper. Then comes the investment plan. So if you have to make a hierarchy, these four things. And then it will require some kind of tweaking based on your individual circumstances. Even there, the experts won't be able to help. Then comes how to configure your temperament, because then the madness of the market, you start your SIP, then the usual question. So I would say that if you are able to figure out, if you are able to implement these 4 things, think about it, implement it, and keep watching Hangout, you will be on track.
So what Dhirendra is saying is you need to have a term plan for yourself, you need to have a health insurance for yourself, and you need to have a sufficient emergency corpus, which, if I may say so, could be 6 months of your monthly requirement.
Yes, that could
at
be
least
good enough.
Or 3 months of your
Depends
income.
on your own context. So
Okay, and once you have that, start investing. How would you define the financial goals for me to invest?
I can't define it for anybody
No,
else.
I mean,
everybody has to define it himself.
Surely, yeah.
Different things could mean different for different people, depending on planning for your retirement. I think is the most important thing. Having enough for your child's education is second most important goal, which everybody strives for, and then it could be variety of things.
Or you buy a car.
Buying a car, I really wonder that, ideally, one should be buying a car, one should make a down payment, because buying a car is not an investment. It's a spending, and in many cases, it could be an essential, it could be a necessity. And making sure that, you are buying a car and you are not incurring interest for a long period of time could be a very meaningful thing. So, that could be a medium-term, short-term need. But the long-term needs are, those. And then after that, having a holiday home could be, another way of looking at another goal. But essentially, those long-term goals, and once you have done that, I think the critical thing is, understanding the retirement need. That is something which is going to change dramatically over the next 30, 40 years. We are going to live longer, and we are going to have increasingly uncertain career. So you can't really be assured that unless you work for the government, you will not have a framework that you will have pensions, a predictable income for all your working. So there will be gaps. There will be many times you do well.
To make it simpler, can I say that our goals are divided into long-term, short-term, and then immediate?
Yes.
So these 3 goals that we have to look for, and then plan have a financial plan accordingly.
Around that.
Okay. How about choosing the appropriate asset classes?
Basic thing is keeping it simple, because many times people think that I have such complex needs, and everybody's needs could be complex, but the plan may not necessarily be very complicated. You can achieve most of your long-term goals, as I was telling you. I keep saying it, time and again, that experience in the market is very important, and then you have to work on a graduation plan, that you start with a balanced fund or a tax saving fund if it will save you taxes, and do your SIPs over for next 2-3 years to get used to it, because you get started with a racy fund, do make some lump sum investment, and being thrown out of the market the moment you see a big decline is quite devastating, and it deprives you of the big opportunity. So start with a balanced fund or a tax saving fund. 1 or 2 of them will actually do well. Once you are little experienced, do it with a multi-cap fund. 2 of them will be good enough. Maybe 1 tax saving fund and 1 multi-cap fund may be good enough for most investors. If you have done this, and the critical thing will be, most people think of this investment in constant, that you start your 10,000 rupee SIP and you feel happy about it and you think that you're disciplined. But when you're doing it over last 5, 7, 10 years, you don't really connect it to your income. So 10 years ago you were able to save 10,000, and today your income has gone up by 4 times, but you are still saving that 10,000 only. So being able to increase your investments over time, and your circumstances change. So initial years you may not have enough savings. Subsequent years you might have savings, or something is taken care of.
So as your income,
goes up,
your investment should
invest
also go
as
up.
much as possible with your rising income, and having more than enough, because in retirement people are going to get a nasty surprise. You are going to live longer. Assuming that you planned to live till 70 and you were retiring at 60, you had to take you had
10 years.
Provide for 10 years. If you live for 80 years, then it's 3 times more. and then it could be it may not be nice, not being the risk of outliving your savings in your lifetime. That too at an old age could be quite devastating, and most people who are not, who will have to take, fend for themselves.
At the risk of sounding repetitive, I will ask you this question once again, though you touched upon it. What are the appropriate investments for the three goals that we set ourselves? Where should I invest for long term? Where should I invest for short term? And where should I invest for immediate term?
Oh, immediate thing should be, depending if you have young, very
Liquid
young,
fund.
very small child. No, maybe some money in the locker.
Okay.
Which should be handy. Some money in the liquid fund and some money in your bank account, which is accessible from the ATM. So that there could be a hierarchy of that 50, 70, 80,000 rupees, which is the money which is handy. Then you should have your health insurance card in your wallet. That's another emergency provision. Then, if you are saving to move your, buy that car, that is one aspect, because every goal could be divided into two kinds. One is a negotiable one. Like planning to buy a car, you can buy it 6 months from now or 1 year from now, it is not going to make a difference. But getting your child admitted to the school has to happen on a day, and you need that 40,000 rupees.
That's sacrosanct.
So, so you have a defined, that's a non-negotiable thing. That's the money which should get into a ultra short-term bond fund. And that money should maybe, it should be into a equity savings fund or something, and if maybe you are able to buy it in 3 months' time, maybe you are able to buy it a year from now, and it won't make a difference. It won't make much of a difference, or it's little negotiable. So depending on that, long-term investment, I think, use 80C to the hill in the tax saving fund and invest rest of the money in a multi-cap fund once you have little experience. But before that, get started with a balanced fund, because having a steady take on equity or experiencing this, equity with relatively superior stability is critical for you to have a long-term belief in this plan.
How important is timing in all this? A young person at the age of 28 starts investing. He has a good horizon of 32 years or so. But a mature person, starts investing at the age of 45. Then the only, according to me, the solution that a person has, that he has to invest a higher amount.
You're asking about yourself? No, no, I would say that, if you have 10 years and more, then you better start believing in equity, because many people have this impression that once you retire, you should not be into equity. I think it's going to be very critical to be invested in equity for the long run. When you actually initially ask timing, that should I perfectly time it? No, you need a lot of time, but you don't necessarily can ever time it well, that this is low and I have to buy it. That will turn out to be quite disappointing, because you normally go wrong.
But sooner the better.
Sooner the better. Compounding really works with time, over time. To make something significant, you have to accumulate something meaningful. You need a lot of time. And the magic of compounding, think of, you start with a small sum, 1 lakh of rupees, and it doubles every 5 years. So 1 lakh becomes 2 lakh in 5 years' time, then 2 lakh becomes 4 lakh in 10 years' time. 4 becoming 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8 in 15 years, 16 in 20 years, and 16 to 32 in another 5 years. So 25th year, you actually make 16, what has taken you 20 years. So the later part, you find that it is doing magically. This magic of compounding, that is why Einstein said, this is the 8th wonder of the world.
Okay. We all look for this 8th wonder of the world, and how right you are, Dhiren, that everyone wants to invest so that at the end of their careers, at least they have enough to take care of themselves. So for that, continue to invest regularly and keep increasing your investment.